Okay, so we're starting a new chapter, and chapter 5 involves angles and parallel lines and what happens when you have parallel lines and lines crossing them and making more angles. Lesson 5.1, or lesson 1, which is 5.1 in your book, if you want to follow along, take a look at some of their examples. Between my examples, their examples, hope you can make sense of all this. So this one is measuring and estimating angles. So our learning intentions, what I hope you know by the end of this lesson is to understand many definitions involving angles. There's lots: supplementary, complementary, reflex, acute, obtuse. I'm going to give you a whole bunch. I need you to know these and what they mean. The second one is going to be to estimate angle sizes. You're stuck in the bush. You don't have a protractor. You need to know the angle of that tree. Uh-oh. You need to estimate, okay? And last one is to calculate the value of angles that are related to each other. So some angles are related to each other, and I'm going to show you how to calculate them. Okay, so here we are with some definitions that you may have already seen before. First, this is a sign for angles. Think of it as like an alligator mouth, angle, okay? Apostrophe S, angles. So I'll use that, I'll switch it in and out for the word angles. So first, an acute angle is between 0 and 90 degrees. So an acute angle, an example, that would be an acute angle. Right angle is 90 degrees. And we denote a right angle by putting a square box. Obtuse is between 90 and 180, so it is a little bit bigger than 90. And just to show it's an angle, what I'm doing is I'm connecting the lines here. When it's a right angle, it's squared. When it's not a right angle, it's just rounded between the two. So this is bigger than 90, but not past a straight line. That's obtuse. A straight angle is a straight line. It equals 180 degrees. Okay? The term, I'm facing one way, exactly the other way, 180. I did a 180. Okay? And then 360, for anyone who skates or anything like that, full way around, 360. So a reflex angle is between 180 and 360. Here's my elbow, straight. If I broke my elbow and it suddenly went like that, but facing this way, that would be a reflex angle. Really bad. So a reflex angle would be drawn like that. Notice this side is obtuse, but if we're, say, starting here and going around, it's bigger than 180, not past 360 though, it didn't do a full circle. That is a reflex angle. So one of the things your book or some questions are going to ask you, let me just put reflex up here, is they might say, what is 95 degrees? Is that acute, obtuse, reflex, straight? Well, 95 is between 90 and 180, so it is an obtuse angle, because between 90 and 180 is obtuse. They may also draw this on a grid. And on a grid, we go 0, 90, 180, 270. And then if you continue to round, this could be 0 or 360. So if they said, what is 210 degrees? Well, 210 is somewhere down here between 180 and 270. So it is reflex. So you need to be able to locate angles on a grid, and you need to be able to say, well, according to the size, knowing my definitions, 210 is between 180 and 360, so it is reflex. Okay, so you need to make sure you understand these definitions to start. So now let's look at estimating some angles. When we did measurement before, we used some reference, and a reference was a way that we could use something we know to make a good, nice estimate about something else. So the example was an inch. The length of your last thumb knuckle is about an inch. A foot. The length of about your forearm is about a foot. So those are reference. So some reference for angles. First you have to know some things. So the first one is 90 degrees. Okay? And everything we're going to relate to 90. Okay? If we had an angle that was about half of 90, so if it went in the middle, so that's about half of 90, that is 45 degrees. Half of 90? 90 divided 2 is 45. Another one, if we were to take this, if we broke 90 degrees into 3 equal sized chunks, 90 divide 3 chunks, each one of these is 30. So this first one is pointing to 30. Then this one, a 30 and 30 more, this one's pointing to 60. And of course, the one going straight up is pointing to 90. So when I have an angle that looks maybe something like this, estimate that. Okay, so my estimate. There's 90, so I know I have 90. Now, about how big is this? Well, it's about half of a 90, so it's 45 more. So 90 plus 45, this angle, 90 and 45, is 135 degrees. So this, estimating, is 135 degrees. At the start I said we're going to do a lot of definitions, and we are. So here's 2 more. First, complementary. Complementary are angles that add to 90 degrees. So for example, a 60-degree angle and a 30-degree angle are complementary to each other. The complement of 60 is 30 because together they make up a 90-degree angle. Supplementary are angles that add to 180. So if I had 40 degrees and a 140 degrees, these 2 angles, if you add them up, are 180 degrees together. So the supplement of 40 is 140. So you need to come up with some way in your mind to remember that complementary adds to 90, supplementary adds to 180. And so now let's look at a little table here. So if my angle is 30, what if its complement? So if they got to add to 90, complement again is 90, supplement's 180. Okay. So 90 minus 30 is 60. They add to 90, that means they're complements of each other. 50 and 40 are complements of each other, okay? Because together they add to 90. What's complementary to 110? Nothing. Because 110 is bigger than 90, there's nothing we can add to it to make it 90. Same with 200, too big. What is supplement of 30? So supplementary with 30 would be 30. So doing the math of it, 180, because we want supplementary, minus 30 leaves us with 150 degrees. 150 plus 30 is 180, so they're supplementary to each other. Supplement of 50, well, 180 minus 50 is 130. What is the supplement of 110? Well, 110 didn't have a complement because it's bigger than 90, but it's not bigger than 180, so it can have a supplement. 180 minus 110 is 70. 70 and 110 are supplementary to each other. And last, 200. What can we add to 200 to get to 180? Nothing. It's not possible. So when something asks you what is complementary to it, find what it takes to get to 90. Supplementary, what to make 180 together. Last definition we're working with today is bearing. So when you're out in a ship sailing and you have to get a bearing is what direction you're heading on a compass. So you get out a compass, and on a compass we have north, east, south, and west. And a bearing is the angle measured clockwise, so we're measuring this way, starting at north equals 0. So if north is 0 degrees, notice these are all nice square boxes, which means east is 90 degrees away if we're going this way. Then north and south make a straight line, and we know straight lines are 180 degrees. Another way is 0 plus a 90 plus a 90 is 180. So continuing clockwise, 90 more means west is 270. When we get back to north, north can be 0 or it can be 360. Because if you do a full circle, you turn 360 degrees, you're heading north again. So The way bearing will work is it will say, a question might be, I guess first it might say, what is northeast? Well, northeast is directly between 0 and 90. So it's 90 divided by the 2, that would be 45 degrees. What is southeast? Well, southeast is halfway between this 90-degree angle. So if we traveled around the compass 90 degrees and then 45 more, you're now pointing southeast on a compass is number 135 degrees. Let's look at another question. Let's say, what is this bearing? You're in a boat. Okay, your boat's here. You're pointing the direction of the orange arrow. And let's say I told you this is 20 degrees from west to here. So the question might say, you're 20 degrees north of west. So here's west, you're 20 degrees north of that. Well, 270 is west, plus 20 more, 270 plus 20 is 290 degrees. Okay, so that's how bearing is going to work. You may be asked to draw a bearing as well. It might say draw the bearing 220. So where's 220? Well, let's see. We have north, east, south, west. So 220, we know north is 0, east is 90, south is 180, west is 270. A common mistake is students will say, oh, well, it's southwest because it's between 180 and 270. Well, it is between those, but remember, southwest is a very specific point. Okay, it's actually 225 is southwest. But where is 220? Well, 220 is between 180 and 270, and if we subtract, it is 40 degrees more than 180. So I'd get out my protractor, measure it up, show that this is 40 degrees because 180 plus this 40 is the 220 degrees bearing I was looking for. And so your assignment for this lesson is all of the questions in section 5.1 up to page 224. Okay, so again, a lot of definitions. It's really important you learn these definitions because later on they're going to ask questions and they'll say, like in future things, and what is supplementary to this? And if you don't even know what the words mean, you can't possibly answer the question. So really important that you get these definitions down. Okay, so good luck. Stay classy, math class.